Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We will call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for this evening. We'll call it at 7:02. Just for those who are appearing before us for the first time, the way the process works is the petitioner will present their petition, after which time the commissioners may or may not ask questions of the petitioner. After that, we will ask anyone in the audience who is speaking in favor or opposed to the petition. After that time period, there is no question and answers. The commission will then close the public hearing unless we feel it's necessary to keep it open for further informational purposes. If you have a cell phone, please put it on silent or vibrate, that way not to distract any of the speakers. What I will do at this point in time is, Mr. Kellerman, I will ask you to read petition number 1 into the record, 50 Housatonic Avenue.
50 Housatonic Avenue, petition of SHM Stratford LLC to seek a coastal site plan review and variance of 8.3 of a max building height from the required 30 feet to 40 feet for the construction of a new boat storage warehouse incidental to existing marine use in a WF zone, hardship pre-existing non-conforming property.
Is the petitioner or the representative present? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
All right, for the record, my name is John Paul Garcia. I'm a licensed engineer, land surveyor, licensed to practice in the state of Connecticut, principal officer, 190 Fairwood Road, the town of Bethany. I'm here representing SMH Holdings. With me is Basil Grabowski, who's the marina manager. We were in front of this commission approximately a year ago with almost the same identical variance request. They're building a new boat storage building. Between last year and this year, we've had some issues where we had to move the building around. Originally, it was closer to the front of the existing building, and the way your regulations work, height is determined by the average height between the ridge and the eave. Well, in that particular rendition, we were building a building that had a 27-foot eave and a 41-foot peak, so the average height was 35 feet, which was the variance we came in for, because your height restriction is 30 feet. Since then, we were told that we had to push the building back behind what is called the LIMWA line, the limit of moderate wave action. If you don't push the building back behind that, then you have to construct it to wave action requirements, which adds about 25 to 35% to the cost of the building. So we pushed the building back, and in so doing, we altered the architecture because the boat store, the door on the south side, had to door on the south side, which is this side right here, has to be as big as possible to allow for boats to move in and out and line up with the garage door that's on the existing building over here. So what happened is we had to increase the height of the building because these are Butler type buildings. They have very deep roof frames. And so in order to make a 32-foot door, you need 2.5 feet clear plus the door frame, so the building now has to be approximately 39 feet tall with the eave. So when you do 39 and 41, divide that by 2, you now have 40. And so that's what we're back in here for, is to change the height. And it doesn't impact any view from the street because the existing building height is 41 feet at the peak, and that's what we're doing. And the back of the wall is 38 feet, and that's what we're doing. So the only reason we're back here is partly because of your regulations, which require height to be as an average rather than the highest point or the lowest point. We have a positive referral from Planning and Zoning. We have a positive referral from all the other commissions. So we thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Commissioners have any questions? Any questions? Hearing none, thank you very much. Is there anyone?
I promise I won't be back again next year.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Opposition. Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to table or to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to close public hearing on this item.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second is made. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We may take this up at the administrative session directly following the public hearing. You're welcome to stay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gibson, would you be so kind as to read petition number 2, 5120 Main Street, into the record?
Yes, I will, Chairman. Okay, so, let's see, 5120 Main Street, petition of Anthony Marini, seeking the coastal site plan review and variances of section 3.14 for construction within 75 feet of the coastal resource and section 4.2 of the front setback requirements of 25 feet to 4.4 feet for the construction of the attached garage addition incidental to the single-family dwelling in a RS3 zone. Hardship pre-existing non-conforming structure with a unique lot shape and a topography, which makes compliance with the regulations extremely difficult.
Thank you very much. Is the petitioner or the representative present? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Good evening. Anthony Marini, agent for Tom and Emily Leone, 5120 Main Street. We're asking for approvals to, we have an existing dilapidated garage here. I have pictures, and I submitted pictures and architecturals and engineering also. We would like to take this down, move further away from the coastal. Right now it's at 51. We would be at 70.2, and then we move further away from the creek. Right now it's at 22, would be like 51. The front variance that we're seeking, we're going to keep in line with the existing property at the moment. That's pretty much it. It's a two-car garage with living space on the second floor. And we got coastal management approval and wetlands approval already, and we spoke to zoning about the process.
Okay, thank you very much. Do the commissioners have any question of the petitioner? Any questions of the petitioner? Hearing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Anyone speaking in opposition to this petition? In opposition? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to close this portion of the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to close public hearing for this item.
Motion by Mr. Llewellyn. Do I hear a second? Second by Ms. Gibson. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Witham, please read into the record petition number 3, 303-35 Benton and 261-346 Mazzaric.
Landscaping and parking for the construction of an addition to the existing aerospace manufacturer in an MA zone. The hardship being a pre-existing non-conforming properties with no other options available for their natural expansion of the business.
Thank you very much. Is the petitioner or their representative? Mr. Knott.
Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Barry Knott. I'm a lawyer with the firm of Knott & Dunn, with offices at 1656 Main Street, Stratford. I'm here this evening on behalf of Cactus LLC and its managing member, Dave Kremen, who stands beside me. This time, I'd like to submit the certificates of mailing and a copy of the photo of the sign, which I posted pursuant to your regulations. I also want to make reference to a folder of exhibits. You can take a seat if you want, Dave. Which I've handed to each of you and to which I'll be making reference during the course of my presentation. Exhibits 1 through 4 are photos of the subject premises. Photo number 1 is a photo taken from across the street of the front of the building. And you'll see in this photo there is a courtyard in the middle of the two structures that extend towards Benton Street. It is within that courtyard that we are seeking to build a 5,800 square foot addition, thereby causing the building, the total building, to become rectangular in shape without the courtyard. Exhibit 2 is a photo of the same front of the building taken from the east. Exhibit 3 is a photo of the front of the building taken from the west. And in that photo, you can see a smaller annex to the left of that structure. That is a building at 261 Masaryk Avenue, which we recently purchased and which we are seeking to incorporate into our operation. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. And Exhibit 4 is a photo of the existing building taken from the rear on Masaryk Avenue. So this is an application seeking a variance of 10.2.2, 10.2.2A, and 12.5.12 of the zoning regulations in order to allow my client to construct a 5,841 square foot addition enclosing the courtyard in the front of the existing building and incorporating an existing building at 261 Masaryk Avenue, which we recently purchased, into the existing facility at 300 Benton Street and 335 Benton Street, where my client currently operates an aerospace manufacturing facility and warehouse. Specifically, my client is seeking a variance of parking from 69 cars to 47, a variance of the front yard setback from 20 feet to 19.7 feet, a variance of lot coverage from 50% to 57%, and a variance of maximum impervious coverage from 80% to 84.1%, and a variance allowing for the first half of the minimum required front yard to be used for parking. We have also submitted a CAM application as the subject premises is located within the coastal area in the town of Stratford. Now, this property consists of slightly in excess of 58,000 square feet of land, which represents the consolidation of 4 adjacent parcels which have been assembled by my client over a number of years as his business grew. Exhibit 5 is the site plan of the facility showing 62 parking spaces. Exhibit 6 is a site plan showing 47 parking spaces. Now, why did I show you 2 site plans? I will explain that in a minute. The first parcel at 35 Benton Street was purchased by my client's father on March 11, 1988, and consisted of an 11,000 square foot, 1-story building on a 21,000 square foot lot. The second parcel at 300 Benton Street was purchased by my client on January 22, 2013, and consisted of an 8,200 square foot building on a 21,000 square foot lot. The third parcel at 346 Masaryk Avenue was purchased by my client in May of 2017 and consisted of a single-family residential house on Masaryk Avenue. This house was raised to create a parking lot to be used ancillary to my client's facility. All this was done pursuant to variance approvals that we received in 2018. Now, a fourth parcel at 261 Masaryk Avenue, which was that little building to the left of the main structure, which I pointed out in that photo, was recently acquired by my client, the interior of which will be incorporated into the total square footage of my client's operational area, and the exterior of which will be incorporated into the total parking and open space areas of the site. The proposed structure, once completed, will total 30,786 square feet, which includes the 5,800 square foot addition that we are seeking approval for tonight. Now, why did I show you 2 site plans, Exhibit 5 and Exhibit 6? One showing 62 parking spaces and one showing 47 parking spaces. Why? The variance that I'm seeking specifically references the site plan showing the 47 parking spaces, because that's what we plan on building. The only reason I submitted the other one was to prove to Dan that we can get more than 50 parking spaces on the site, and we did this in order to take advantage of Section 12.6.2, which provides that in parking lots that are over 50 spaces in size, 35% of the spaces can be made to service compact vehicles instead of full-size vehicles. The difference between the two is a compact vehicle is 8 by 16, where a full-size vehicle is 9 by 20. So by being able to take advantage of the compact regulation, we are able to get a couple more parking spaces on this site. By taking advantage of this regulation, we were able to fit 47 spaces on this site in a reasonable manner. Accordingly, I would now ask you to disregard the site plan that shows 62 parking spaces and treat the 47 space plan as the appropriate plan, which is the subject of this application. The 62 parking space plan was simply to show Dan that we have the right to use the compact space regulation. Now, what's the story with Stratton Industries, my client's business? David, that you just saw, is President and Chief Executive Officer of Stratton Industries, which currently operates in Stratford out of two addresses, 180 Surf Avenue, and this property, which uses the address of 35 Benton Street. Stratton Industries manufactures precision aircraft and aerospace components, primarily for Sikorsky Aircraft and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, also known as NASA. In fact, Dave is with me this evening, and he will be available to answer questions. However, in preparing for this application, I discovered a fascinating fact which I want to bring to your attention. Dave brought with him a device manufactured by Stratton, which is currently on the planet Mars. He's scraping substances from the surface of the planet Mars. Dave, would you hand that around, let them take a look at this thing?
That's a sample tube that's on Mars now.
Would you explain to them what that is? And
Hi.
hand them those photos.
Okay.
Too. We need that back, by the way.
My name is Dave Crummin. I'm the president of Stratton Industries. So the sample tube is currently on Mars. That's an overrun. That's an extra part. And the photos you're going to see is that currently they are filling those with soil, and they are lying on the surface of Mars. And in the photographs, you'll see that they're going to also send up a helicopter fetcher to pick them up. And then later they'll be put into the rocket you see there. And in the year 2030, they'll return. And this will be the first item that has been man-made that will go to a planet and return ever in history.
Thank you, Dave. And it was manufactured in Stratford, Connecticut at Stratton Industries. Now, I've often been accused of being from Mars, but I'm not going to take any credit. I'm not going to take any credit for this invention. But I thought you would find that interesting. Okay. So Stratton employs approximately 90 people, of whom 42 will work at this Benton Street facility. As the proposed addition is anticipated to be used as warehouse and storage space to support existing manufacturing facilities, no new employees are anticipated to be hired as a result of this proposed addition. On the other hand, no employees will be laid off either. The hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and Saturdays from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. On occasion, when things are crazy, a skeleton crew of approximately 8 employees may come to the facility as early as 6 a.m. Most employees leave by 3:30, and almost all of them are gone by 4:30. Stratton Industries was started by Dave's father in 1961 at a facility near the VFW Hall on Barnum Avenue Cutoff. In 1965, Stratton moved to Surf Avenue, and in 1988, it expanded to 35 Benton Street. In 2013, they acquired 300 Benton Street, added to their assemblage with the purchase of the house at 346 Mazarek Avenue, and completed their assemblage with the purchase of 261 Mazarek Avenue in 2022. Obviously, Mr. Kremen would like to keep Stratton in Stratford, but needs this addition in order to provide adequate warehouse and storage space to support the manufacturing facilities currently in existence at the Surf Avenue and Benton Street locations. Exhibits 7 and 8 are architectural renderings of the front of the building and the floor plans. Now, I want to discuss Dan's administrative comments. Initially, Dan points out that the location is industrial in nature, consisting of a mix of light industrial, commercial, and limited and residential uses along Benton Street, and predominantly residential uses along Mazarek Avenue. He points out that the proposed application is consistent with the type of development seen in the MA zone and somewhat typical for this neighborhood. Of interest to note is that the line between the RM1 multifamily zone and the MA light industrial zone runs right down the middle of Masaryk Avenue. So the houses on the north side of Masaryk Avenue are multifamily. The properties on the south side of Masaryk Avenue are light industrial. Our property is located on the south side of Masaryk Avenue and in the light industrial zone. So this is a permitted use in the zone. Dan also inquired as to the total number of employees, and I've already indicated, given you an indication of that. There will be no outdoor storage of trucks, equipment, or materials after hours or when the business is not open. Dan goes on to say that if the board approves the subject application, they may choose to consider the following recommendations. One, as this application shows multiple involved properties, if approved, the applicant should be required to file on the land records a map verifying the consolidation of all these properties into one parcel. Secondly, we should obtain a letter from a licensed engineer assuring that this plan is compliant with the town's MS4 stormwater management plan, and that should be submitted to John Casey, and that approval from John Casey should be sent to the Planning and Zoning Office. We agree, and I hereby stipulate to both of those conditions as a condition of approval. Exhibit 9 is a letter from the Architectural Review Board. We went there on March 8th, got approval there. Exhibit 10 is an email from Bill Rock, Chairman of the Waterfront Commission. We went there on, I believe, the next night, May 9th, and the Harbor Management Commission approved this as well. So ARB approved it, Harbor Management approved it. We're asking for your approval. And as far as the hardship is concerned, I indicated in my application that our claimed hardship is that this application represents pre-existing non-conforming properties with no other options available for the natural expansion of this business. Here the applicant has acquired all of the available additional land adjacent to its original building. No additional land is now available to grow this business at this site. My client's property represents an assemblage of 4 parcels of property, upon which 3 existing light industrial buildings will be reconfigured to recreate one finished product, one big building, okay? These properties were acquired at 4 different times as Stratton grew. My client was restricted in the use of these properties by the configuration of the existing buildings on each lot. Similarly, when he acquired the house at 346 Masaryk and the light industrial building at 261 Masaryk, he was restricted as to how these properties could be incorporated into a coherent site plan. He was already working with 2 existing light industrial buildings, which were constructed by different people at different times for different purposes, 300 and 335 Benton. Different times, different people, different purposes. If my client was starting from a clean slate with no buildings there, we probably would have been able to design a facility for him which wouldn't need variances. I suspect that that's probably true. But however, we weren't starting with a clean slate. We were starting with 4 structures which already existed. So he was limited by what was already on the ground, and this represents the hardship. Finally, Exhibit 11 are approval letters from this board in 2018 when we came in for a similar variance application when we bought the house at 346 Masaryk and wanted to expand the building and connect 300 and 335, which is what that structure in the back of the courtyard is. That was the expansion that we got approval for in 2018. So we've been here before. This board's always been good to Stratton. Stratton is good for the town of Stratford, and I would ask for your support for this application.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nutt. Any questions from the commissioners? Ms. Gibson.
Hi. Thank you for the information you're sharing with us. I just wanted to know, is there going to be any interruption on any of the other streets
No.
For access to the other streets?
No,
then?
all the
Okay.
construction is going to take place in that courtyard.
Just in that area?
Actually, the construction is quite simple, because 3 of the walls of the area within that courtyard already exist.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of closing off the front and removing the back wall, and we got our
And then
addition.
you're, yeah,
So
right,
it's
okay.
not going to be a big deal.
Thank you.
Ms. Witham?
You might have answered it, and I might have missed it in reading all of this. How many employees do you have in?
90, of which 42 are at this location.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms.
About
Gibson.
the compact, how many compact spaces, or are you planning on doing that?
We are
with the
planning
40?
on doing it.
So are they all going to be compact?
No, no.
Just how
We
many?
can only do 35% as compacts
All right, thank you.
under the regulation.
And you're looking to have just 42 spots now,
47,
47, okay.
right. When we got approved in 2018, we got a variance down to 40 at that time. We're bumping up the parking to 47 this time, 5 more spaces, but we're also including that little building on the side that I showed you in that photograph.
You all came and expanded on the first building and told us about the project, so it's very exciting to see that the project launched. It's amazing, yeah.
Thank you very much. Did we get that part back? Our 5,000, did we get our $5,000
Yes,
part
you
back?
got your part back. Question. I see the Architectural Review Board made some generalized recommendations, not part of their requirements. Have you discussed them with the client? And
We are willing to go along with any conditions that this board imposes on the application. I have had, I'm going to put my foot in my mouth, but the Architectural Review Board oftentimes makes recommendations that are inconsistent with the realm of reality. That's all I'm going to say. So
Understood.
if you want to impose them, we'll do it, but
Understood. Just wanted to know if you'd had the opportunity to review and discuss with your client. Thank you.
In that same discussion, is there anything, it doesn't seem like anything that they recommended is that difficult.
no, correct, that's right.
So,
I mean, the reason I say that, this is a plain vanilla light industrial building, you know? The fact that we even had to go to the Architectural Review Board in the first place is, it's the regulation, so we go, okay? But there's not a lot that you can do with a plain vanilla light industrial building. Landscaping, we're gonna do landscaping. That was one of the benefits of reducing the parking from the 62 that we showed you in that one plan that we can do down to 47. The elimination of those parking spaces from 62 to 47 is all going to be landscaping. So that's a benefit. That wasn't recommended by the Architectural Review Board, but I discussed it with them when I was before them.
Very good. Any additional questions?
I have one, if you don't mind.
Ms. Duval?
I'm just confused with the 346 Masaryk Avenue, because that is across the street.
No,
So-
no. 346, if you look at the site plan, to the back of the building on the right, there's a parking lot.
Yep,
That 346, there was a house where that parking lot is now. The house came down. There was a residential house on our side of Masaryk Avenue, even though it was light industrial.
even though it was an even number, because
All
everything
the
else is
numbers
the odd
down there
number.
are screwed up. I mean, this particular property is right next to each other. One of them is 300, the other one is 335.
Okay,
So,
because I knew there was a house in foreclosure. I wasn't sure
Yeah.
if that was the
well,
property you
the
were
numbers,
speaking of.
the numbers
Okay.
down there don't go the way they do around here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? If not, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this proposal? In favor? Anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in opposition to the proposal? Opposition? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to close the public hearing on this item.
Motion by Mr. Llewellyn, do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Kellerman. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. That petition is now closed. We have one more petition on our agenda. It is 999 Oronoke Lane, and my understanding is the petitioner has once again requested a delay so that they can deal with some structural issues that came up.
They may resubmit during this month. They're looking for the landowner's approval to install the satellite dish on the ground. Otherwise, they may be looking for a new property.
Okay, very good. In that case, without prejudice, the 999 Oronoke Lane will be stricken from the agenda, and it can come back to us at a later date if they so choose. Those are the only items that were open for the public hearing, so the chair will now entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to close public hearing?
We have a motion to close by Mr. Llewellyn. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Witham. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We will now go into the work agenda, administrative session of the Board of Zoning Appeals. First item on the agenda is to vote or discuss on items listed on the public hearing agenda for April 4th. Does anyone wish to take 50 Housatonic Avenue, petition number 1, off the table for discussion or action?
I'll take item number 1, 50 Housatonic Avenue off the table for
Do we have
discussion.
a motion to take it off the table? Do we hear a second?
Second.
Second? Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. 50 Housatonic Avenue petition is now open for discussion or action. The chair will entertain any motions.
I'll make a motion to approve 50 Housatonic Avenue
And I'll second it.
as presented.
So we have a motion and second to approve. Discussion on the motion. Let it be noted for the record, if the petitioners have any objection to indicating that the hardship was presented and accepted by this board. So let the record show that the motion includes the fact that the hardship was met. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 50 Housatonic is approved. The next petition that was heard, 5120 Main Street. Does anyone wish to take 5120 Main Street off the table?
Make a motion to take 5120 Main Street off the table.
Motion by Mr. Llewellyn. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes yes. Motion is passed 5-0. 5120 is now open for discussion or action. Anyone wish to discuss? Table, approve, deny?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Llewellyn.
in the zoning notes, our enforcement officer, Mr. Brennan, calls out for us to consider comments received by DEEP regarding this development, given the property residing in a coastal hazard area. So, in looking at the drawing that was presented, it looks like they're basically looking to remove the dilapidated garage, put the new garage, but it's going to be basically in line with the existing house structure that's there. So is that kind of correct? And in a sense, are they not improving the conditions of being closer to waterways?
So in Deep's comments, some of their items that they addressed that weren't necessarily identified on the initial survey or the elevations was the actual height of the first floor living area. So when it comes to coastal site plans, they have to be above the base flood elevation, which in that zone is 25 feet. When Deep reviewed the plans, there wasn't an identification on where that elevation of living space was going to be. Since then, the applicant has revised all of the plans to identify. So on the elevations, it shows that that first floor living area above the garage will be at 27.5 feet, which is 2.5 feet above the base flood elevation. So that, in a sense, meets Deep's requirements. Another comment they made was about the floodway. The floodway wasn't identified on the site plan, although it was identified in the notes of it, but there was no delineation line. So they had a concern that the house or potential addition was going to be located in this floodway. The applicant, again, had his surveyor add that delineation line, and it clearly shows that it's outside of the floodway.
Okay, so then for the purposes of our discussion in our sort of putting on our coastal area management hat, really all concerns have been addressed at this point.
Yes, in my opinion, they.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan.
Concerns have been addressed and actually better, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There was one little section which the applicant had told me it was done accidentally when he submitted on the plans. There was a small addition to the right side of the building, which I had never discussed with him. Those plans, that addition was wiped away. It's just the garage with the living area above it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve 5120 Main Street.
I have a motion to approve, Mr. Llewellyn. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Witham. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes unanimously. 5120 Main Street is approved as hardship has been identified and presented. The last petition from the public hearing is 300, 335, 261, and 346 Mazarick Avenue. Anyone want to take that off the table for discussion? Ms. Witham?
I'll make a motion to take 300 and 335 Benton Street and 261 and 346 Mazarick Avenue off the table.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are now open on the multi-property petition. Any action? Ms. Gibson?
Well, I would say that I think that what they're doing is great and that it's going to enhance that property and their business. So I really think that it would do well for that area. And as far as the 47 spaces, I mean, he addressed as 35% for compact cars. I don't think it's going to make a traffic situation. And
All
they're
right,
not
so-
increasing their employment,
Right.
I would say.
So that's a
I would
motion
say
to approve,
To approve
based
it.
on that? Do I hear a second to that motion?
I'll make a second to that motion with the conditions that were put in the staff letter.
Does the person who made the motion accept that as a friendly amendment, that it's the stipulations that were in the staff letter?
Which I think they were okay with, yeah.
Yeah, they were. He's talked about them.
Okay, very
This-
good. So we have a motion to approve with the two stipulations that were listed in the staff letter. Discussion on the motion.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Llewellyn.
This might be more of kind of a procedural question, but will this petition be going before the zoning commission before they go for a building permit?
Oh, no.
Yes.
Yes, it will.
Yep, anything over 5,000 square feet, whether it's new or an addition, requires zoning commission approval.
Not that I kind of really want to kind of punt the football, so to speak, but in this kind of position, are we better served by just voting on the variances and kind of leaving the architectural review board business to the zoning commission?
The zoning commission consistently incorporates the ARB comments into their approvals, so I don't think there's any.
I was going to have a couple of questions related to that, but I think in terms of the requested variances, my concerns are satisfied at this moment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Right, so we're not stipulating anything that the ARB had put down. That's this, if we approve it, it has to go to the zoning anyways, and zoning will then undertake those discussions. What we're doing is just dealing with our zoning administrators' two comments that were in the administrative outline. Any further comments or questions? If not, we have a motion to approve that's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Terry seconded it, and Ms. Gibson made the motion. Thank you. Yeah. The next item on the agenda for the administrative session is the approval of minutes of March 7th. The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve the minutes of our March 7th meeting.
Motion to approve by Mr. Llewellyn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gibson. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Campsite plan review. Mr. Brennan, you want to just briefly touch upon 50 Housatonic?
Yeah, 50 Housatonic, after its last variance approval in front of this board, it went to the zoning commission and was approved for a coastal site plan application there. So A on our administrative item is a mistake. They don't need another coastal site plan because they're just dealing with the height. The application was still sent to DEEP, who came back with no additional comments.
Thank you very much. Anybody on the commission have any questions of Mr. Brennan regarding that?
Can I make one more recommendation?
Oh, absolutely.
When discussing the other two, 5120 and 300 Benton, typically if the variance is approved, the coastal site plan is approved, or vice versa. When approving a coastal site plan, I would just make a statement that it's in line with the goals and policies of the Coastal Area Management Act.
Okay, very good. So that being said, we have 5120 Main Street. Mr. Brennan, do you have any additional comments? Okay. The chair will entertain a motion on 5120.
Is this a motion to approve?
Motion to approve that it meets the coastal site plan requirements.
Motion to approve 5120 Main Street as per coastal site plan review requirements.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Witham. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. The properties et al. Item C. The chair will entertain a motion on all those wonderful properties that eventually will be consolidated into one, we hope.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the Benton Street and Mazick area, Benton Street and Mazick Avenue properties in regards to coastal site plan review.
Because it's in conformity, it is in conformity with their requirements. I'll be able to get it out. Thank you.
Accepted.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Mr. Brennan, do we have any erosion and sediment control approval?
No, none at this time.
Members' comments, members' concerns or comments? Mr. Brennan, you wanted to bring something up at this point?
Yeah, so recently, the zoning commission and the planning commission have changed their time of the meetings from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock. In my opinion, I thought I would just present it to the board to be consistent with the other land use boards. I know conflicts may arise, but I wanted to put the ball in your court.
I appreciate that. Discussion or questions or comments from the members? Ms. Witham?
I would never be able to make 6:15, ever, because I pick somebody up somewhere at 6:15 every night.
Mr. Llewellyn?
6 o'clock could become hit or miss.
Yep.
So,
Well, I have a twofold approach to it. Number one, from a personal standpoint, I work in Stratford. I usually get out of my office between 5:15 and 5:30 on the days that I'm in the office, one of which could be a Tuesday. So it would be impossible for me to make a 6 o'clock. Number two, notwithstanding the decisions of the other boards, we represent the public. It's a public service and a public interest to have these meetings. I'm sure that there are more than one or two people who live in the town of Stratford that either work either in New York City, southern Fairfield County, or northern Fairfield County in the Danbury area that would find it difficult and taxing to get here for meetings that would occur prior to 7 o'clock. In particular, if it was a 6 o'clock and the petition that they wanted to speak in either in favor or in opposition was to come up at 6 o'clock, it would make it very hard pressed for them to be here. So while I understand the sentiment of the other commissions, I can't necessarily say that I personally understand their rationale as to why to change it. I have seen a tendency of public agencies to try to move their meetings earlier and earlier. And I'm sure it's more for a convenience standpoint, but I think that is a disservice to the general public for which we serve as volunteers, and it's a disservice to the community in terms of participation in local government. So I would be opposed to any change in the time. Anyone else have any other comments?
Actually, the zoning one is only for the second meeting of the month. The first one is staying at 7 o'clock.
So they, actually, they do have a separate administrative meeting, so that'll be at 6 o'clock and the public hearing is still at 7?
No, the administrative meeting is at, or let's see, the second meeting would be at 6 PM. That would be the public hearing.
Yeah, see,
The
that's,
administrative stays at 7.
see, that's what I,
It doesn't start till June.
yeah, and that's what I find it hard pressed for good government to try to do more things with less people in the audience and less openness. It's great that you could watch it on whatever channel they broadcast this stuff on these days, 79, 78, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's great to be able to watch your government in action, but it's better to be able to participate.
I agree.
All right, so from that standpoint, I think the consensus, we don't need to take a vote. I think the consensus is we remain at 7 o'clock. The next commission, when they are seated January 1st of 2024, can broach the subject again. Please feel free to bring it up to them. But for the balance of this year, we are going to remain at 7 o'clock. Any other concerns or comments from the membership? Any other items to be brought forward? Hearing none, the last item on the agenda is adjournment. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Llewellyn,
Second that.
second by Ms. Witham. No discussion on that. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Off the record at 7:48. Happy Easter, Passover, or whatever religion that you celebrate.